Apollo versus Dionysus, who wins in a world without balance? In the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, two figures stand as powerful, almost opposing forces. Apollo, the god of light, reason, order, and harmony, and Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, chaos, and primal instinct. For centuries, philosophers, artists, and thinkers have grappled with the tension between these two archetypes, recognizing that a healthy individual and a thriving society require a delicate balance between the Apollonian and the Dionysian. But what happens when this balance is lost? In a world increasingly driven by extreme rationalism, or conversely, by unchecked emotionalism and hedonism, who wins? And what are the consequences of a world without balance? Today, on Echoes of Olympus, we'll delve into the profound philosophical and psychological implications of the Apollonian and Dionysian archetypes. We'll explore their characteristics, their essential tension, and what happens when one dominates the other, leading to a world teetering on the brink. Join us as we seek to understand the vital importance of integrating both light and shadow, order and chaos, for a truly full and resilient existence. Apollo, order, reason, and light. Apollo, the radiant god of the sun, music, poetry, healing, and prophecy, embodies the Apollonian principle. He represents the forces of order, reason, clarity, and control. His domain is the realm of the intellect, the structured, the predictable, and the harmonious. Think of the classical Greek temples, with their perfect symmetry and mathematical precision. That is the essence of Apollo. Key characteristics of the Apollonian archetype include reason and logic. Apollo is the patron of rational thought, scientific inquiry, and objective truth. He encourages clear thinking, analysis, and the pursuit of knowledge through systematic observation and deduction. He seeks to understand the world through intellect, imposing order on chaos. Order and harmony. The Apollonian principle values structure, discipline, and proportion. It seeks to create beauty through form, balance, and aesthetic perfection. In music, it's the melody and rhythm. In art, it's the classical sculpture. In society, it's law and governance. It's about bringing things into alignment, creating a sense of peace and predictability. Clarity and light. As the god of the sun, Apollo illuminates. He brings things into the light of consciousness, dispelling shadows, confusion, and illusion. He represents self-knowledge, introspection, and the pursuit of truth through clear, unbiased perception. He encourages us to see things as they are, without distortion. Self-control and discipline. The Apollonian ideal emphasizes moderation, temperance, and self-mastery. It's about controlling impulses, delaying gratification, and adhering to principles. The famous Delphic maxim, "Know thyself," is deeply Apollonian, urging introspection and rational self-understanding. Individuality and form. Apollo is associated with the principle of individuation, the clear delineation of boundaries and forms. He celebrates the distinctness of each entity, the beauty of the individual, and the power of defined identity. He gives shape and structure to the formless. In philosophy, particularly as explored by Friedrich Nietzsche in The Birth of Tragedy, the Apollonian represents the dream state, the world of appearances, of beautiful illusions, of the structured and individuated forms that make life comprehensible and bearable. It is the force that allows us to create art, build civilizations, and find meaning in a seemingly chaotic universe by imposing order upon it. But this order, if left unchecked, can become rigid, sterile, and ultimately lifeless. Dionysus, chaos, emotion, and ecstasy. In stark contrast to Apollo's serene order stands Dionysus, the enigmatic god of wine, revelry, ecstasy, and madness. He embodies the Dionysian principle, representing the forces of chaos, emotion, instinct, and the dissolution of boundaries. His domain is the realm of the irrational, the fluid, the unpredictable, and the passionate. Think of the wild, untamed forests, the intoxicating power of wine, or the liberating frenzy of a dance. That is the essence of Dionysus. Key characteristics of the Dionysian archetype include emotion and instinct. Dionysus celebrates raw emotion, primal urges, and uninhibited instinct. He encourages us to feel deeply, to surrender to our passions, and to connect with the visceral, animalistic aspects of our nature. He is the god of the body, of sensation, and of the immediate experience. Chaos and disintegration. The Dionysian principle embraces disorder, disruption, and the breaking down of established forms. It seeks to dissolve boundaries, to merge with the collective, and to experience a sense of unity with the universe. In music, it's the improvisational jam. In art, it's the abstract expression. In society, it's revolution and rebellion. It's about transcending the individual self and merging with the universal. Ecstasy and transcendence. Dionysus offers a path to ecstasy, a state of being outside oneself, through intoxication, ritual, dance, and music. He provides a means to transcend the limitations of the rational mind and experience a deeper, more mystical connection to life. This can be a powerful and liberating experience, but also a dangerous one if not approached with awareness. Loss of self and collective identity. Unlike Apollo's emphasis on individuation, Dionysus encourages the dissolution of the individual ego into the collective. In his rituals, followers would often lose their sense of separate identity, merging with the group and experiencing a profound sense of unity. This can be a source of immense power and connection, but also a potential for mob mentality and loss of personal responsibility. Primal energy and fertility. Dionysus is deeply connected to the earth, to fertility, and to the raw, generative forces of nature. He represents the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth, and the untamed, creative energy that underlies all existence. In Nietzsche's philosophy, the Dionysian represents the intoxicated state, the raw, primal energy of life itself, the dissolution of individual boundaries, and the direct experience of the terrifying and exhilarating unity of existence. It is the force that allows us to break free from rigid structures, to experience profound joy and sorrow, and to connect with the deeper currents of life. But this chaos, if left unchecked, can lead to self-destruction, madness, and anarchy. The essential tension. The necessary balance for Nietzsche, and indeed for many thinkers throughout history, the true genius of ancient Greek culture lay not in the dominance of either Apollo or Dionysus, but in the dynamic tension and eventual synthesis between these two seemingly opposing forces. A healthy individual, a thriving society, and truly great art emerge not from the suppression of one principle by the other, but from their constant interplay and mutual enrichment. It is in this essential tension that creativity, resilience, and genuine wholeness reside. Creativity. Born from tension, art in its highest form often arises from the interplay of Apollonian structure and Dionysian inspiration. The Apollonian provides the form, the technique, the discipline, while the Dionysian provides the raw emotion, the intuitive spark, the unbridled passion. A painting needs both the precise brush strokes, Apollonian, and the emotional depth, Dionysian. Music requires both melody and rhythm, Apollonian, and the expressive power that moves the soul, Dionysian. Without the Dionysian, art becomes sterile and academic. Without the Apollonian, it becomes formless and incomprehensible. Individual wholeness. In the individual, a life lived solely under the Apollonian principle can become rigid, emotionally repressed, and sterile. It can lead to burnout, anxiety, and a profound sense of disconnection from one's own vitality. Conversely, a life lived solely under the Dionysian principle can devolve into chaos, self-destruction, and a lack of direction. True psychological health involves integrating both. It means having the discipline to pursue goals, Apollonian, while also allowing for spontaneous joy, emotional expression, and connection to primal energies, Dionysian. It's about knowing when to be rational and when to surrender to intuition, when to plan and when to simply be. Societal resilience. A society that is purely Apollonian might be highly efficient and orderly, but it risks becoming totalitarian, repressive, and devoid of genuine human spirit. Innovation and change would be stifled. A purely Dionysian society, on the other hand, would descend into anarchy, lacking the necessary structures for cooperation and progress. A resilient society needs both strong institutions, laws, and rational governance, Apollonian, and the capacity for collective celebration, emotional release, social movements, and the embrace of diversity and change, Dionysian. It needs both stability and adaptability. The dance of opposites. The relationship between Apollo and Dionysus is not one of victory or defeat, but of a continuous dance. Each needs the other to define itself and to achieve its full potential. Apollo provides the boundaries that Dionysus can then transcend, and Dionysus provides the raw material and energy that Apollo can then shape. They are two sides of the same coin, two poles of the human experience that, when held in dynamic tension, create a richer, more vibrant reality. This balance is not static, it is a constant process of adjustment and integration. It requires self-awareness, flexibility, and a willingness to embrace the complexities of life. But what happens when this delicate balance is shattered, when one principle dominates the other to the exclusion of its counterpart? The consequences, both for the individual and for society, can be profound and often destructive. A world without balance. The consequences of dominance. The delicate balance between Apollo and Dionysus is not easily maintained. When one principle gains unchecked dominance over the other, the results can be detrimental, leading to a world or an individual that is profoundly out of sync. This imbalance can manifest in various forms, each with its own set of challenges and pathologies. When Apollo dominates, the tyranny of pure reason. When the Apollonian principle reigns supreme, unchecked by the Dionysian, the world becomes overly rationalized, rigid, and emotionally sterile. The pursuit of order and control can devolve into a tyranny of pure reason, leading to repression and emotional sterility. Emotions, instincts, and the irrational aspects of human experience are suppressed or denied. Life becomes a series of logical calculations, devoid of passion, spontaneity, or genuine joy. This can lead to widespread emotional repression, anxiety, and a feeling of being disconnected from one's own vitality. Art becomes academic and lifeless. Relationships become transactional, and life loses its zest. Bureaucracy and rigidity. Society becomes overly structured, with rigid rules, regulations, and hierarchies that stifle creativity and individual expression. Bureaucracy triumphs over human needs, and systems become ends in themselves rather than means to serve people. Innovation is feared, and tradition becomes dogma, leading to stagnation and an inability to adapt to change. Authoritarianism and control. The desire for order can morph into authoritarianism, where control is exerted over every aspect of life. Dissent is suppressed, individuality is crushed, and uniformity is enforced. This can lead to oppressive regimes, where human freedom and dignity are sacrificed at the altar of an idealized rational order. Disconnection from nature and the body. An overemphasis on the Apollonian can lead to a profound disconnection from the natural world and from our own physical bodies. The body is seen as a machine to be controlled, and nature as a resource to be exploited, rather than a living system to be respected and integrated with. This can manifest as ecological crises and widespread physical and mental health issues. Existential emptiness. In a purely Apollonian world, stripped of its mystery, its passion, and its irrational depths, life can feel meaningless. The pursuit of objective truth, while valuable, can lead to a cold, sterile existence where the human spirit withers. The death of God that Nietzsche spoke of can be seen as the ultimate triumph of a purely rational worldview, leaving a void where meaning once resided. When Dionysus dominates, the descent into chaos. Conversely, when the Dionysian principle runs rampant, unchecked by the Apollonian, the world descends into chaos, anarchy, and self-destruction. The embrace of emotion and instinct can devolve into unbridled hedonism and irrationality, leading to anarchy and social breakdown. Without the Apollonian structures of law, order, and governance, society can collapse into a state of anarchy. Individual desires and impulses reign supreme, leading to conflict, violence, and a complete breakdown of social cohesion. The collective loses its ability to function, and the pursuit of immediate gratification overshadows long-term well-being. Self-destruction and addiction. The unbridled pursuit of ecstasy and sensation, without the tempering influence of reason and self-control, can lead to self-destructive behaviors, addiction, and a profound loss of personal agency. The individual becomes enslaved by their own impulses, losing their sense of self and purpose in a relentless pursuit of fleeting highs. Irrationality and delusion. When emotion and intuition are completely untethered from reason, the world can become a breeding ground for delusion, superstition, and mass hysteria. Critical thinking is abandoned, and narratives are driven by raw emotion, leading to widespread misinformation, tribalism, and an inability to distinguish truth from fantasy. Loss of individuality and mob mentality. The Dionysian emphasis on collective merging, when taken to an extreme, can lead to a loss of individual identity and the rise of mob mentality. People lose their capacity for independent thought and action, becoming swept up in the collective frenzy, often with destructive consequences. The individual is subsumed by the undifferentiated mass. Meaningless excess. While the Dionysian offers profound experiences, without the Apollonian framework to give them meaning, they can become mere excess. Constant revelry and unbridled passion, when lacking purpose or direction, can lead to a profound sense of emptiness and exhaustion. The pursuit of sensation becomes an endless, unfulfilling cycle. Both extremes, the purely Apollonian and the purely Dionysian, lead to forms of imbalance that are ultimately unsustainable and destructive. The question then is not which one wins, but how we can consciously strive for the dynamic interplay that creates a world and lives of true richness and resilience. The new balance. So Apollo versus Dionysus, who wins in a world without balance? The answer, as we've seen, is that neither truly wins, and ultimately, humanity loses. A world dominated by pure Apollonian order becomes sterile, repressive, and devoid of passion. A world consumed by pure Dionysian chaos descends into anarchy, self-destruction, and meaninglessness. True flourishing, both individually and collectively, arises not from the triumph of one over the other, but from their dynamic, continuous interplay. Nietzsche's profound insight was that the greatness of Greek tragedy lay in its ability to hold these two forces in tension, to acknowledge the terrifying and exhilarating aspects of existence without succumbing to either extreme. It is a lesson that resonates deeply in our modern world, where we often find ourselves pulled towards one pole or the other, seeking simplistic solutions to complex problems. Our challenge today is to consciously cultivate this balance within ourselves and in our societies. It means embracing both reason and emotion, recognizing that both logic and intuition, thought and feeling, are essential guides for navigating life. It's about allowing our emotions to inform our reason, and our reason to temper our impulses. Valuing both structure and spontaneity. creating necessary structures and disciplines in our lives, Apollonian, while also leaving room for spontaneity, play, creativity, and uninhibited expression, Dionysian. It's about finding rhythm in our routines and joy in our breaks, integrating the light and the shadow, acknowledging that human nature and indeed reality itself is composed of both light and shadow, order and chaos. True wisdom comes from integrating these seemingly opposing forces, understanding that each has its place and its purpose. Seeking harmony, not uniformity. Striving for a harmony that allows for diversity and tension rather than a uniformity that suppresses individuality and passion. It's about creating systems that are robust enough to provide stability, yet flexible enough to allow for growth and change. This is the new balance we must seek. A world where the Apollonian pursuit of knowledge, clarity, and ethical conduct is enriched by the Dionysian embrace of passion, creativity, and the ecstatic experience of life. It is a world where we can build magnificent structures, but also dance wildly within them. A world where we can think deeply, but also feel profoundly. Ultimately, the question is not who wins, but how we can learn to dance with both Apollo and Dionysus, allowing their eternal tension to create a richer, more vibrant, and truly balanced existence. For in this dance, we find not just survival, but true flourishing. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the Echoes of Olympus channel for more deep dives into mythology, philosophy, and the human experience, and share it with someone who needs to find their balance. And remember, the greatest strength lies in integration.